program is brought to you by Newsworks in cooperation with the City of Eau Claire. This program is simulcast on WRFP-LP 101.9 FM.
Good evening. We'll call this evening's meeting of the Plan Commission to order, please. I'd like to thank everybody who is here in attendance live, as well as everyone who might be watching, being broadcast live by Valley Media Works on Charter Channel 994, WRFP LP 101.9 FM, and online at valleymediaworks.org. Plan Commission attempts to conduct its public hearings in a relatively informal manner within the constraint that we must deal with the issues before us in an orderly and businesslike fashion. The way the process works is we have somebody from the City Development Department present the agenda item. First, the Commission has the opportunity to ask any questions, appropriate questions. Then we give the applicant an opportunity to come up and add any comments they wish to make. Once again, the Commission has the opportunity to ask questions. Following that, we open it up for public discussion, if anybody from the public would like to speak. And we would ask, if you'd like to speak, please take one of the slips in the back of the room, fill it out, and leave it on the podium when you come up. Finally, after that point, we ask for a motion, and we have any discussion that's appropriate, and we call for the question. We do request that everybody that might be speaking to restrict their comments to the issues before us and avoid any unnecessary repetitions so we can be as diligent with the last agenda item as we are with the first. I'd like to remind everybody, if you have a cell phone, please either turn it off or turn it to silent. And with that, first item on the agenda is we would like to welcome Jill Christofferson as the newest member of the Plan Commission. Jill comes to us as one of the two representatives from the City Council. Jill, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to increasing my experience on our August duty of zoning and following the plans that are set forth for the city. But I also, as one of the council members that are here, I really want to be available to the public who would like to have questions presented or considered so that my view and my perspective is also one of the community. So I look forward to learning from my experience here. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Next agenda item is the election of officers, the annual election of officers for the Commission. So I'll be looking for a nomination for chair. Commissioner Peterson.
I would like to nominate Eric Larson as chairperson.
Okay. Mr. Larson. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Larson, you're okay with that nomination?
I am.
Great. Any further nominations? With that, I will ask for call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Commissioner Larson. Next nomination would be for vice chair. Looking for a nomination for vice chair. Really looking for a nomination. Mr. Commissioner Seymour.
Thank you. How about Mr. Peterson?
I'd rather not.
Okay. How about this guy right here?
Commissioner Granlund.
Yeah.
I'll take vice chair.
Okay. Do we have a second on that? I guess for.
I'll second.
Thanks, Commissioner Larson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great, congratulations. And third, for secretary, we have a nomination for secretary. I'll jump in and nominate Commissioner Peterson. Terry, you're willing to do it again? Do we have a second? Commissioner Seymour, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we have our slate of officers. And Commissioner Larson, this is all yours right now.
Congratulations.
Right. Look at that, my name followed me. So we are currently on item number 3, which is a public hearing for recommendation to City Council on rezoning a commercial development at 2703 Craig Road. Is the petitioner here?
Yes, he's in the audience, but I will present my item
Oh, okay.
first, and then,
Good.
before you is a rezoning from C3H, Highway Overlay District, to C3P for planned development, and to approve the general development plan for commercial development located on the southwest side of Eau Claire. This is the current, site here, Zone C3H. The C3H is a highway overlay district. You note on this, map, there's a 70-foot setback off of Highway 37. There's a 30-foot setback off of Craig and the surrounding roads of this parcel. Also in your packet is the map and radius. We notify within 300 feet of the property. There's a public zoning sign, and we publish in the paper. Also in your packet is the aerial photograph of the existing site, currently the Clarendon Hotel, that's housing students from the university. Also, there was the Green Mill restaurant that has been vacated to the premise. In your packet too is the site plan. This is approval of not only the rezoning request, but also the site plan. The site plan shows a 3-phase development. The first phase would be a hotel, the second phase would be a hotel, and the third phase would be a commercial development. I zoomed in on each of the development, and I'll go over those in detail. First phase, again, is a hotel. It is for a limited service hotel for 90 rooms, 4 stories tall, approximately 14,924 square feet. The hotel, this phase of the hotel requires 95 parking stalls, and the proposed parking is 98 stalls. The staff and the developer would need to work with each other on what pavement would be done at this phase and the access for this phase. Going back to the current site, they do have multiple accesses to the site, 4 on Craig Road and 1 on Atrium Court. With that being said, the city engineering department is recommending that only 3 be on Craig Road, and the existing one would be removed. Going back to the phase development, going to lot number 2 of the master plan, this would also be a 4-story hotel with 103 rooms. Again, it would be the limited service hotel, approximately 15,000 square feet in size. This phase would require 100 stalls, and 100 stalls are proposed. Going to phase 3 of the development, which is a future commercial space at 6,350 square feet. This is all up in the air. At this time, they do not have any commercial tenants for the building. They are proposing the maximum number of stalls at 57. The required based on a shopping center would be 35, so there might be some adjustments to this. They were just showing the maximum they could do. If there is a significant change to this site plan, it would have to come back to not only Plan Commission, but potentially City Council to amend the general development plan as shown in the packet. With that being said, there is a grading plan and elevations in your packet. I did receive color elevations for the first phase, again showing the 4-story hotel on site. With that being said, the pylon sign that's existing for the Clarendon Hotel and Green Mill should be removed as part of the development. It is noted on the site plan that that would remain. Sidewalk connection shall be shown on the revised site plan. The engineering department is requesting that sidewalk be installed away from Craig Road on Atrium Drive and Harvest Court. The comprehensive plan shows this being as appropriate for commercial development. The surrounding zoning is C3 and C3H. The developer does provide the bicycle parking on site. They are located on the rear of the buildings, as shown. So the first one on phase 3 is shown bicycle parking here. On phase two is shown in the back of the site. And in phase one, if I can go, phase one is also in the back of the site. Similar to the Residence Inn Hotel by Marriott at the last public meeting for the Plan Commission, did recommend those be scattered throughout the site and more located near the entrance. Councilmember Grigor brought that to my attention this morning, and that could be added a condition to the report. Also, a certified survey map is required at a later date when they actually go forward with the multiple phase development. Each development would be on its own lot. The reason why we do that is if they ever do go sell one of these lots, they would be able to sell that and with no problem. We would require a cross-access easement and shared parking agreement with the facilities. The original hotel was built in 1973. Portion of it is 2 stories, and the restaurant pool lobby area is 1 stories. Many years ago, the hotel's standards have been changed to most of them, all of them pretty much are 4 stories now minimum. We've seen that change in the last 20 to 30 years throughout not only Eau Claire, but throughout the United States. Staff did find that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan. We would note that this is a gateway into the community from 94 to the south, also 37 from the south, and it's compatible with the surrounding area. In your report, too, is the grading and drainage, public utilities, traffic, and transit report. I would note that there is few conditions that need to be met. I would add in there to number B that it needs to be the sidewalks along each of the streets need to be connected from the site. And then also the bicycle parking should be number 5 if the Plan Commission finds that appropriate to be scattered throughout the site, especially in the front of each of the facilities or each of the commercial buildings. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions. The applicant is in the audience for questions as well.
Thank you. Mr. Gregor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Petrie, I was wondering about does the letter need to specifically refer to the sidewalk connections from the public sidewalk to the buildings? I don't know if I see it in there.
That's correct. So we would require under 1B, include sidewalk along each street segment and sidewalk connection to the public, from the private sidewalk to the public sidewalk in a revised site plan.
Okay, so so the understanding is that you'll be adding that? as it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, that's correct, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Petrie? Mr. Peterson.
Mr. Petrie, do you know which driveway on Craig Road the city desires be removed? Or
I would
just
defer
one?
that to the city engineer, Ms. Ness.
There are 2 central driveway locations, mid-block more of Craig Road, and we'd like to combine those 2 access points.
Okay, so one of the 2 middle ones then.
Correct.
And then secondly, if I may, we're also requesting that the driveway off of Atrium Court be limited to 30 feet in width unless they can show a bona fide reason.
Correct, yep. We asked them to look at a 30-foot driveway width unless they have truck turning movements or other types of movements from vehicles that need to access that. That would need a wider access there.
So that would be in the recommendations then too, to remove one of the 2 middle driveways on Craig Road and then limit the driveway on Atrium Court to 30
Correct.
feet width. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Mr. Petrie? Is the applicant here?
Up there, yeah.
Good evening, I'm Jamie Bovey with River Valley Architects.
And I'm Tom Larson with Craig Lodging LLC.
We have reviewed the staff comments, and for the most part are in agreement with them. We just ask that maybe a second consideration be given to the pylon sign that is currently existing and has been on the site for several years. And we are here to address any questions that the commission may have at this time.
Mr. Brenholt.
Yeah, have you identified the tenant yet for the first hotel?
Not yet at this time, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Gregor.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr.
Draper.
Chair. Mr. Bovee, Mr. Larson, I was wondering if you could give me some perspective on how you decided to do this in phases versus maybe one hotel, or I guess I see kind of a cluster of buildings versus a more contiguous project. Maybe you could give us some insight on that.
I can address that. Absorption of rooms inventory in the market was a consideration when we looked at doing the hotels in 2 phases. And as far as the third parcel, for commercial use, we have not identified a tenant for that space yet. And we don't have an appetite for building spec retail space without knowing what specific requirements the tenant might be looking for.
I have a quick follow-up question to that. I guess that would be with regard to the design of the hotel buildings. Are you going to have any meeting space or conference space in them?
The meeting space in each of the hotels will be minimal.
Thank you.
Mr. Christopherson.
Thank you. Mr. Bovee, Mr. Larson, I'm wondering about the hotels themselves. What type of amenities do they have? When you say limited, is there any food, breakfast, that kind of thing?
There will be hot continental breakfast with each of the concepts, and each of the hotels will be nationally known branded lodging facilities that are fed or serviced by a robust reservation system.
Mr. Seymour.
Thank you. I guess one of my questions might be for Mr. Petrie, and then maybe a follow-up. Why is it one of the conditions to remove the pylon sign that the city would like to see?
Thank you. Yes, so the existing pylon sign is located on the southwest corner of the parking lot next to the entrance right now. That sign is significantly taller than what we require and significantly larger than what we require. On this site, the national chains, we believe, the hotel chains will have their own signs requirements. Good example is the Hampton Inn across the street. No matter what, they'll put 2 signs on the wall and have a ground sign. We just feel like when they demo the Clarendon Hotel and Green Mill site, the sign should go with it, with the understanding that phase 1 would happen this year, but phase 2 and 3 may not happen for who knows how many years. At this time, we don't know that. So staff is recommending that sign be demolished when the building goes down.
Could I have a follow-up? Is that okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
of
thank
course.
you. So, I guess I agree with what you're saying. Would that sign meet code right now?
Unfortunately, at this time, I do not know the specifications of the sign.
Okay.
We would allow it to be 40 feet tall at 200 square feet when they redevelop the site. Staff could not find the original permit It could have been from 1973, which I bet it is. The applicant may know more about the sign detail, but either way, there would be able to replace a sign at 40 feet tall, at 200 square feet, and at the setbacks, if approved by the council, that would be 30 feet from Highway 37 and then 20 feet from Craig Road with a replacement sign.
Okay, thank you. One more
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
for the applicant.
Yes.
Thank you, Eric. What is so special about the sign? It seems like it's kind of dated and, like Ryan said, maybe a little out of scale. What's so important to you guys about keeping it?
This is a great opportunity for me to answer some questions that were asked even earlier.
Okay.
That sign was erected when the property was originally constructed in 1973. It complied with the sign ordinance that was in place at that time and has been grandfathered to present time. It is significantly higher than what the current ordinance calls for, and we've changed the sign a number of times along with the flags at that existing property. We consider it an asset to the site as one 5.28 acre site. It may be an asset to a prospective tenant that would be going into Lot 3 of this development, and we and then again it may not. Once it comes down, it's not going to go back up again, and that's why we were asking for consideration to take that sign down when, if required by Plan Commission or Council, or based on the recommendation of city staff, when Parcel 3 was developed.
Okay, thank you.
Any more question? Commissioner Gregor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one other question related to what Mr. Petrie brought up earlier with regard to bicycle parking. Would you feel it would be appropriate to have bike parking near the entrances as well as the back of the buildings, or do you feel any hesitancy about that?
Yeah. We've owned and operated a number of lodging properties in a variety of markets throughout the upper Midwest over the course of the last 25 years. And some of those projects have bicycle parking at the main entrances. And it's remarkable how infrequently those bicycle parking facilities are utilized. That said, we're interested and more than willing to comply with the local ordinance and recommendations from city staff on the location of the bicycle parking facilities.
Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson?
I'd like to follow up on that. So if someone were to travel here on a bicycle, they would go around the back of the motel, lock their bike up there, and then walk all the way around the motel to the front entrance on their initial stop at the motel?
If they wanted to, well, as I mentioned before, it's remarkable how infrequently the bicycle parking facilities are utilized at limited service or full service hotels. Most of the guests that use bicycles will bring them in on their vehicles and check in, and then unload the bicycles, utilize the bike paths and so on from there. So I think that's one of the contributing factors to the infrequency that the bike racks or bicycle rack facilities are utilized at limited or full-service hotels.
And I'm just thinking if I were to come with a couple of bikes on my vehicle and do some touring in the area, I would rather have my bikes out front where there's a little more security than have them parked out back. So that's just my thoughts on having the bike parking out front, and if it's very infrequently that they're used, they're not going to be cluttering up the front. You're going to have the bike racks there, but I don't think it's going to be a detriment to the entrance of the building.
Yeah, as I said, we're willing to provide for that if that is the recommendation. And I just want to be on the record saying that when those racks are right there, they're very infrequently used.
Okay. And Mr. Larson, a couple of follow-up questions.
Yes.
With the discussion on the driveway with Ms. Ness earlier, do you have any problem with removing one of the two middle driveways off of Craig Road?
Consolidating two of the two middle driveways into one drive at approximately that location, we're willing to do that. It makes sense, frankly.
And do you have justification for a wider than a 30-foot driveway off of Atrium Court?
At this time, no. The second and third phase of this project may guide us toward requesting a wider drive. It may be influenced by what type of user goes into the commercial building, which is listed as parcel 3 of this subdivision, or division of the single parcel.
I just had a new subdivision go in down by me. They're putting in the curb and gutter and the blacktop. The curb and gutter is all 6 inches high. There's no driveway cuts, mainly because they don't know what's going in there. And so when a property owner develops a particular lot in the residential subdivision, they're going to cut their own driveway in and remove the curb. So I'm thinking if there's no pressing need right now for a larger than 30-foot driveway, I think a 30-foot driveway should be installed at this time. And if a need comes when phase 2 or 3 comes, you can always redo the curb. You're going to be doing the parking lots anyway. So.
Right, correct. I mean, right now, we will be developing all 3 of these parcels, and when we come back for site plan approval for phase 2 and phase 3, we may request a wider driveway at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for the applicant? Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion?
Public hearing for the reason.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on the rezoning at 2703 Craig Road? Any member of the public that came to speak about that? Seeing none, I'll ask again if there is a motion. Commissioner Peterson.
I'll make a motion to approve with the additional condition that Mr. Petrie mentioned concerning the sidewalk connection to the public sidewalks to the buildings. And then staff recommendations also for only 3 driveways on Craig Road and a 30-foot maximum driveway on Atrium Court. Is that correct?
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Commissioner Brenholm.
Yeah, Chairman Larson, the only thing I'd like to offer to Commissioner Peterson is, do we also want to talk about the fact that the atrium, the pylon sign should be removed per staff recommendations?
I would agree to that.
as well as bicycle parking near the main entrance.
I can agree to that also.
Okay,
So,
with that, I'll be happy to second.
Okay. So we have it all down? All right. Any discussion on this item? And, okay, could we vote on both of these at the same time, or we should really vote on one at a time, should we not?
Certainly could.
We have a
vote on-
rezoning for recommendation to council, and then the development.
The rezoning does incorporate the site plan
Okay,
into it, so certainly could vote all in one motion.
okay. Does your motion include both rezoning and
yes, both the
site plan?
rezoning and the site plan. And
Okay.
one more question.
Yes, sir, Mr.
The
Peterson.
rezoning, the real main reason for the rezoning is just the setback from 37 and the frontage road?
That is correct.
Okay, 70 feet seems a little excessive since 37 is going to be there forever and the frontage road is there, so.
Correct.
That's very appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? Mr. Gregor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I just wanted to comment on the staging of this. I was a bit, I feel like the development of this is pretty, it's incremental, obviously, and, I think it makes sense the way it's, the way the phases go in terms of the land use, but I do, just as an encouragement to the developer, at least, to find it as many ways as possible to include green space and as many trees as possible as this project unfolds, because I do think it kind of is a lot of pavement, and obviously that part of town has a lot of pavement right now, but I think the more we can change the culture up there, I guess, the better. And just to comment specifically on the bike parking piece, which I appreciate was included in the original motion, I guess, these are different types of hotels than what is there currently. But still, I think this is in a location where there is a bike path really nearby. There are bike lanes right on Craig Road there. So I think it's possible we'd see a bit more bike use. And with the current hotel, I frequently would show up on my bike and park on the flagpole in the front if I'm going to the Green Mill area, or I would park on a light pole in the back if I was going to the conference center. And obviously, I think if bicyclists know where the parking is, they're gonna not be parking on those other items in the site plan. So that's a major reason to include it in a very visible place near the entrance. So just wanted to comment on that and just encourage the green space as part of this somehow, although I know there's a lot that's being attempted here, so.
Thank you. Mr. Christopherson?
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to amplify what Jeremy's saying. I did notice in the information that this actually decreases the impermeable surface by 3%, which is the direction we'd want to be going, but that's really a lot of parking, and it might be able to be softened in some way by other treatments and certainly by trees. I also wanted to just wonder out loud about the third building that is the last to be staged, and the fact that they're removing a large restaurant and bringing in a lot of people that may need supper, and other development plans that have come up in front of council or actually not in front of council, but have been anticipated by the city, really point to the fact that there's actually not enough restaurant facilities in that area. So I like what I'm seeing. I like the concept. I like the flexibility, but it would be nice if somehow that commercial space ended up being a restaurant.
Thank you. Any more comments on this item? Seeing none, we'll call a question. All those in favor of the rezoning and site plan as moved, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, that motion passes. Congratulations. Item 2 is a public discussion for recommendation to City Council on a final plat at Princeton Ridge, east of Princeton Crossing, north of County Road Q.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Larson and members of the commission. Before you this evening, as shown on the map there, this is located in the northeast portion of the city, item number 4. There's a clicker around here. Thank you. Oops. This is the overall plat map. What's before you this evening is approval or request for approval, recommendation that is to City Council of P319. Advanced Engineering Concepts, on behalf of the owner Princeton Ridge Properties LLC, is requesting approval of a final plat of Princeton Ridge, at Princeton Ridge Drive. Attached is, again, or included in your packet, I should say, is the final plat and the aerial photo. Show that here briefly. The plat creates 4 lots off of the proposed Princeton Ridge Drive. You can see here. Of varying size. The proposed lots do meet all the C3P zoning district standards and allows the developer to construct the proposed Marriott Residence Inn on Lot 3, which is the kind of oddly shaped lot there, the largest lot on the far east side of the map there. The site plan and preliminary plat for that project were previously approved by the Plan Commission at your previous meeting on April 15th. City Council will also need to approve a developer's agreement for the construction of the new street, which is Princeton Ridge Drive, as well as facilities for, or related to that, for water main, sanitary sewer, and stormwater, prior to issuing a building permit for the development of the hotel. The overall site in question for the plat with the 4 lots is just over 8 acres in size. And again, this is related to the previous approvals before you at the last meeting. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you.
Let's see. Hear from the applicant now?
I believe they're here.
Yes. Is the applicant here? Yes, sir.
Thank you, members of the commission. I'm here primarily to answer any questions that you may have. As you do remember, we approved the site plan at our last meeting. So we're just coming forward with the plat as we approved the site plan on Lot 3 at the last meeting.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you. So this is public discussion, so we don't have.
Correct, yeah, public hearing, so just discussion
Okay.
amongst the commission.
Is there any discussion on the, well, I should entertain a motion first. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve with the recommendations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Seymour.
Thank you. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. And that motion passes. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. Item number 5 is a public discussion for recommendation on land acquisition on Mead Street. Yes.
Good evening. The City of Eau Claire purchased 3 parcels for a future park along Folsom Street in February of 2019. The thought is to use this land for a future park and the development of athletic fields. There's a a shortage of soccer fields within the city that we are currently seeing, and this would help fulfill that need. The purchase agreement for the acquisition of the parcel is $10,000, the same amount assessed for the property. The purchase of this property, maybe I should describe where the property is here. This is Mead Street, on extensions of Mead Street. Previously, the city purchased these 3 properties. I have an aerial that shows that a little bit better. Up here is Roosevelt School, and this is an existing park owned by the city. This is a zoomed-in picture of the parcel that we're looking at. The acquisition of the parcel addresses 2 of the policies addressed in the 2005 comprehensive plan, and it's consistent with the goals and objectives of the plan. A question that I had regarding this was the size of the property and the replacement. The existing park area owned north next to Roosevelt is approximately 2.5 acres, where with the acquisition of this parcel and the previous 3 parcels of land that the city purchased, it would be approximately 4.5 to 5 acres of parkland available. So we are looking for a recommendation by Plan Commission today. Any questions?
Questions for Ms. Ness? Mr. Granlund?
At some point, the intent would be to have a vehicle access to the park at one point or another. Would that be at the northern end there, near the school lots, or? And so this is kind of the cutoff piece that's clearly accessible from the extension of the bike trail that swoops through there. But what would be the expectation for the public vehicle access to such a park? I mean, it doesn't have to be figured out for exactly, but I was kind of curious since it's so landlocked around with.
That's true. We have an existing trail running along this side of the properties and a future planned trail going north-south along the properties. I would anticipate the intent would be to have vehicular access, but I haven't
Just
looked at the site to see how that would be available.
Thank you.
Commissioner Christopherson?
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Ness, I'm kind of saying this just for general information. With the recommendation for the city to acquire the previous properties in February, there was a lot of discussion by the neighborhood residences that are aligning with that property. They're very much in favor of the city acquiring the property as opposed to it being in the possibility that it would be privately developed. However, it is currently, as you can see on the overview, an urban forest, and they're very, very much in favor of seeing that being more of a passive soccer field. Doesn't really come into the image that they were hoping to have developed behind their homes. So I am certainly in favor of the acquisition, but I would ask again that the neighbors be intensely involved in planning whatever type of neighborhood park this might be.
Thank you. Any further comments or any further questions for Ms. Ness? Okay, thank you. Is there a motion then? The applicant is the city, right?
Correct.
So, is there a motion for this item? Mr. Seymour?
Thank you. I would make a motion that the city move to acquire this property.
Is there a second? Mr. Peterson?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, that motion passes. So we move on to discussion and direction, and the first item there is the 2019 National Planning Conference summary.
Yes,
Allen.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Included in your packet, it was a 7-page summary of the different sessions, classes, and events I attended in mid-April, actually during your last meeting. So apologies for not being in attendance. It was a well-attended National Planning Conference. It was in fact, the most well-attended in the history of the conference. And it had over 6,400 city planners attending that. So from actually across the world. So all 50 states were represented. Now, admittedly, many of them were students in the planning field, which is great. Again, looking at kind of the future of planning moving forward. But its location certainly was able to garner a lot of student interest, which was part of the reason for the large attendance as well. So included in this is a tradition, but a process I instituted at a previous community I was at. Having the opportunity to attend the National Planning Conference, certainly an honor and a privilege. So with that, need to kind of gather good information and bring it back and share it with others. So hopefully I've done that with the summary here. With each of those different sessions, the way I've laid it out includes kind of the summary or kind of an introduction from American Planning Association, APA itself. So that's kind of in italics if you read that, and then my notes follow. Try to provide some links, so there are a lot of hyperlinks in the report itself in the digital version. You can kind of click on and learn more about each of those individual topics from those different presenters and such as well. So a lot of good information. It's one of those things where you'd love to have 3 or 4 clones of yourself or the entire planning staff attend, so we can kind of attack each of those different kind of informational tracks or topical tracks. But hopefully there's enough here to give you a flavor of what was talked about there. And then again, as those materials become available, moving forward, they'll be available on the new APA educational platform online called APA Learn. So I provided a link to that in the cover memo as well. So once those become available, I'm happy to share more with folks. If there are any any of those sessions you'd like to learn a little bit more about, I'll kind of keep track of that to see when those materials become available. But they'll provide all the PowerPoint slides and even some audio from those sessions as well. I also provide a link just to the general conference webpage too, so you can even look through the agenda, look at the blogs that they had, links to social media postings. So a lot of information, a lot of material to absorb there. But again, topically, if you're interested in something in particular, wanted to learn more about it, just let me know, and I'm happy to kind of drill down on that and find some more to share. In previous agendas and previous meetings, we've had discussions about accessory dwelling units, tiny homes, things of that sort. So again, happy to have more conversations like that about any of these different topics that were covered at the National Planning Conference as well. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any questions or,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
any questions or comments about the,
I do have, want to defer, it's not specifically on the agenda, Mr. Chair. So we're throwing you off here. Right? It's your first meeting right off the bat, but I want to defer to our Deputy City Engineer, Leah Ness, as well. She had a couple items, informational items, she wanted to share as well before we get into the rest of the list there, if that's okay.
sure.
All right, we have 2 surveys that are online right now available to the public. One of them is a parking survey that I believe was sent to you this morning. And we are in the process of updating our downtown comprehensive parking study. We've expanded it from the downtown to include the 3rd Ward neighborhood and also the historic Randall Park neighborhood. So we have been in data collection mode the last month and a half probably to do some parking surveys within the 3 areas. That information has been provided to our consultant at this point. They're going through the data, and they helped us develop this survey right now that's active. It will be active through May 20th. After that, with the survey results, we will reach out to the public and have a couple different public open houses and meetings with different groups to get feedback on parking in the different areas that we're reviewing. I anticipate that those meetings will be end of May, early June. And when we have those specific dates and times, we'll get those out to you. As for the transit study survey, the City of Eau Claire is working with UW-Madison on how well public transit is serving our community and how emerging technologies could impact our future public service for transportation. There is a survey available right now. It's on our transit website. We'll send that link to you as well. And it's really looking into the potential of autonomous vehicles in the transit world. If you were to have a fixed bus route that had an autonomous vehicle, would you feel comfortable riding in that vehicle? Things along those lines. And just monitoring your use of public transit and availability of it to you. So we're working with some researchers at Madison. They have a couple other communities that they're working with right now as well, similar topics, and this study should be complete in June, July timeframe. We'll have some information back related to that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments about the planning conference or information shared by Ms. Ness? With that, we'll move on to code compliance items.
Yep.
Mr. Brenholm.
Mr. Chair, I had a resident of Emery Street talk to me about a concern they had on a residential dwelling on the corner of Emery and Keith, specifically 1911 Emery Street. It's a rental, seems to be pretty badly in disrepair. The concrete steps are broken up. We have some fine red vegetation growing from the foundation and a number of other things. So if we could have that checked. It may be one that you're already aware of, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thank you. Any other code compliance items? Future agenda items.
We have one, if I may.
Sir,
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Allen.
For a future discussion item, I should mention last week, had an opportunity to speak before one of the committees with Visit Eau Claire, talking about some interest in short-term rental ordinances and such. So a number of communities across the state have been kind of enhancing, updating their Airbnb regulations. We had some discussions some time ago. It is on the Plan Commission work plan for this year, so staff has been doing some research, getting some good information from Visit Eau Claire. But if there's any information you have that you'd like to share in the meantime, please let me know. Any ordinances and such that you may come across. But we look forward to having a discussion on that most likely in June.
Comments from the commission about short-term rental? Great. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none and without objection, the meeting is adjourned.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and the City of Eau Claire. A transcript of this meeting is available for the hearing impaired. It will be available within 7 days of this telecast. Call 715-839-4912 or TDD 715-839-1689 or write Eau Claire City Clerk, P.O. Box 5148, Eau Claire, Wisconsin 54702-5148. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.